Hi, my name is Bruce Bolger, and I'm founder of the Enterprise Engagement Alliance, and we're dedicated to helping organizations find their alpha through people. And that's only possible through a strategic and systematic approach that isn't taught in schools, let's be honest. So we're all about sharing information and not even making people pay because it's so new in so many ways and yet so old. We would say that it's really all about total quality management for people. So one of the most important subjects in this whole area is ROI, impact. Whenever we talk about people, we say they're our number one asset, and yet at the end of the day, they're buried on the balance sheets under goodwill. They're only an expense. They aren't an asset on the balance sheet. And so we really need expertise that isn't taught in school, but that comes from people like Jack Phillips, chairman and founder of the ROI Institute, and ordinarily his partner, Patti Phillips, but she is in wonderful Philadelphia right now, hopefully enjoying one of their great cheese sandwiches there, caught up in this air traffic control situation. So, just a quick background on why we have Jack here today. We're talking about ROI in marketing. I would argue, Jack and I have not discussed this, that this is one of the areas where actually we're very bad at ROI marketing. We're kind of, I think, all over the place and kind of distangled and filled with buzzwords, but maybe Jack feels it differently. So we're going to find out from the man who wrote the book about marketing along with his colleagues, marketing ROI. And finally, just so you know about us, the EEA, much of what we do is for free, like this generous time that Jack is giving us for the show today, because we're really all about how to achieve alpha, and sharing all the different ways and different organizations like Jack's that are coming up with solutions. So I am now going to stop this share. And so, Jack, just quickly tell us before we get into the issue. And I promise you, what we're going to hear today are the lessons from somebody who's seen, and me too, but we're going to hear from Jack about lessons learned in marketing all these years. But, Jack, just tell us about ROI Institute quickly.
Okay, basically, we help people see the value of what they do, whatever it is they do. We work in lots of different areas. Marketing is one of those. We basically, in terms of marketing, we would teach people how to measure the success of their marketing campaigns right up to ROI. We'll also do it for them, and if they're our consulting, or we'd do it together, sometimes in a coaching framework. But the point is, we get it done, show the value of what they do. So we noticed as we started the working and offering our processes in so many different areas, this kind of grew to different functions. We saw more and more marketing people come into our programs. We worked with them. And then we had some organizations that would bring us in internally to train their marketing team how to show the value of what they do. So we kept working in marketing, and we kept looking around at the materials that were there in the field, and we didn't see a credible approach to marketing. And the key word is credible, and this is where we work and stand out from others, is that we're very conservative, very credible in what we do.
Now, let me stop you for 1 second so
Yes.
that people understand you offer two services in a way, as I understand it. You either can function as an advisor to a company where they bring you in and you hands-on your guidance, you guide them, or you have a certification program where they can actually learn these processes and say, in a sense, adios to you. Are those the two options?
Yeah. Actually, we'll actually do the consulting that we go evaluate your project. We teach you to do it. In between is where we do advising or coaching them through it. So it's really three different ways: coach them, do it for them, or teach them.
Great. And by the way, we don't have time in 30 minutes to get into the obviously the details. And the reason we have you on the show is, of course, we recommend you as the solution for this type of service. So, but what is the overall, if you had to say it in a nutshell, if you're talking to a CEO, you got upgraded or whatever, and she says to you, so Jack, what is the essence of your framework? There's an essence to most frameworks. What's the essence?
Well, first, we have 5 levels of outcome from any marketing project that we look at. It's always there. It's just whether you decide to evaluate. First, is it how the audience reacts to your marketing? That's usually customers or potential customers. How did they see your campaign? Is it important to them? Is it something that's interesting to them? Is it catching their attention? Is it attractive? So reaction is the first. Second is, are they taking something away from your campaign or your ad or whatever you have? And that's the takeaways. What are they learning about you, your product, your service, your position in the market, your cost, pricing, what is it they're taking away? And second or third is what are they going to do now? You want them to do something that's taking an action. And maybe it's to try a sample, maybe it's to get some customer satisfaction ratings, doing something. And then finally, the important one for most is that you have a sale. That's the impact. And they sell the product or they get a new customer. But then we take the profit of that sale and then we compare it to the cost of the marketing campaign. And there's your ROI. What's the return on investment of this marketing campaign? That's the fifth level. That's the ultimate level. So you've got those 5 levels of outcome, and we have a process to do all of this. And you see it behind me. It's a flow chart there. And so we teach people to actually use this as they are thinking about their marketing campaign, because it starts with why. The first step in the model is get clear on your impacts. And this is where we seem to miss the boat sometimes in marketing campaigns. What are we trying to do? Is it sell that customer more product, or to get them to become a new customer? Are we working on just the brand? Are we working on something else? The loyalty. So getting clear on why we're doing it, and then making sure we have the right solution and set objectives. And then we collect the data. We're going to analyze the data to be very credible. We report the results. That's the last part of the process. And we leverage those results for good things like more funding, more support in the future. So that's in a nutshell what our framework is. It's really what you see behind you in 12 steps, but it builds on those 5 levels of outcomes from any marketing project.
But what I think is interesting in your theory, and correct me if I'm wrong, it is flexible in the extent, to the extent that it's really based on the purpose of the campaign, right?
Yeah,
What are you
right.
trying to do? It starts there. And I think usually in most campaigns you can have multiple objectives, right? And one thing that you did not mention that strikes me, I think personally that the most important overlooked element in marketing, and I'm sure you have it somewhere, is relationships.
Mhm.
Because to me, marketers, the big mistake they make in both B2B and B2C, although more in B2B, is that there's no, especially in B2B, you don't really know when somebody's going to buy. We know around, Halloween, there's going to be candy sales. Around Christmas, there's going to be more retail. But when is someone going to buy a copier? When is
Mhm.
someone going to buy ball bearings for their new factory? We don't know. So what about this whole concept, Jack, of relationship building? To me, the most important goal besides sales of a campaign, but we're going to move on from this, but I want to get your opinion, is
Yeah,
getting a database and building a relationship by helping instead of selling. What are your thoughts on
yeah.
that?
I'm with you. If you look at this chart, if you look at the bottom, that one that stands out down at the bottom there, that's says identify the intangibles from the project. So we put the relationships in the intangible area, building trust, building that good satisfaction, uh, making sure we have good collaboration, but we respect each other. So building that relationship. We call that intangible because those measures often are not converted to money. So we define an intangible benefit as a measure that we could not convert to money credibly with a reasonable amount of time. And so that's a big part of this. So we report those in every project. So you basically have reaction, takeaways, actions, impact, ROI, and the intangibles. And so we report those 6 types of data, still 5 levels of outcomes, because the intangibles are going to be impact, not converted to money. They are powerful. And sometimes that makes a difference. You may have a negative study, but you built some good relationships that make a difference here, or you got some good collaboration, good communications opened up.
Or you've built a database that you're using to sell, but to help. This is, and we're going to move on, but to me, in fact, this is a great segue. To me, the biggest, because I now want to get into the lessons learned. You've given a great framework that will be also summarized in our article, and I'm going to recommend in the article where to buy your book. But I want to get into this one issue that I think the two fundamental things that are wrong with marketing. I'd like to get your opinion. Number one, that it's all over the place. It's ad hoc. It's very prone to gimmicks. It's very prone to fads. It's very prone to metrics that aren't really meaningful. And that even at really big companies, huge companies, the advertising agency may have all sorts of data that never gets into the right hands. So first off, my number one thing that marketing is not as systematic as we like to think. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're correct. It's all kinds of things and all kinds of programs. And it's just just a wide range from handing out coffee mugs with the name on it to spending enough money to have your name outside of a football stadium. And so such a range, and it's often not planned so well, and not clear why we're doing it, just doing something to get something out. So it is a lot more haphazard than we think it is. And that's probably one of my reactions in working with marketing teams is I thought they were better than they are. And that I don't really mean that to be so
Yeah.
mean, but they leave the impression that they really know what they're doing, but they miss so many things and are not necessarily so organized and thoughtful and systematic about what they're doing necessarily.
Well, okay, now that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. Everything, look at that chart behind you. Folks, if you knew total quality management, you could blur and you kind of see some of the similarities of the systematic, strategic focus based on what you're trying to accomplish, right? Purpose,
Yeah,
goals, and objectives, values, those can be multiple things, right? As Jack has
yeah.
explained. Um, but it seems to me that instead, a lot of times marketers are throwing things at the wall. Oh, let's do this trade show. This sales guy sold us on a great out of home campaign. Wait a minute, we've just signed this big contract. Let's put up a billboard in Times Square for 3 hours, you know. And then, by the way, that's right when the boss is going to be walking into a conference. So we're sure he'll see it. I mean, I see a lot of that in marketing. Am I wrong?
No, you're correct. We just seem to try things. Let's try and see if it works. But uh, we'd say let's do better than that. Let's anticipate, maybe even forecast. What we've noticed is that those who do a good job of forecasting the sales that will come from a marketing campaign, forecasting the actual ROI, they're much better at what they do when they do that. But it's growing in popularity, but it's still not done so much as actually forecasting your ROI in advance. We have a lot of fun with that, and we work with a lot of large organizations in trying to develop their forecasting, particularly with like technology companies selling an enterprise-wide system. Forecast is probably the best way to actually sell that, is to forecast your ROI. But here's a point, gets back to the credibility. When you forecast something and you sell it because of the forecast, you're going to have to follow up and see if it delivered that. And if your follow up shows that it's not that successful, you just lost your credibility. So your forecast needs to be less than the actual. And you have to plan to go do the actual if you're going to do the forecast. So we really have three ROI calculations here. One is what we call it the objective. You need to have this much ROI from this program. The forecast is another. We hope that forecast is more than that, but it's got to be credible and conservative so that when you do the follow-up, the third ROI is going to be hopefully better. If it's less, then you're beginning to lose some of your credibility.
Now, you know that forecasting, especially in a new product, is really a challenge. It's one thing if you're a
Yeah,
steady company, you can run a ruler through your sales, right? And then maybe make a few adjustments for the economy or whatever. But when you're launching a new product, right? I mean, that is
yeah,
a challenge. But let me ask you this. How many, in your many years of experience, how many companies really exercise this level of discipline and getting the data necessary to do this analysis? I find that one of the biggest problems is that companies often silo their data so that
yeah,
it isn't easy to get all the data.
right. Yeah, I'd say 20 to 25% somewhere in there that of the ones that we've dealt with actually are doing it in a very credible, consistent, conservative way. So it's not so much. Now, they come to us often when they have problems, and that we may have a sample that's a little skewed in that respect. Um, so, but it's really things are not working so well for many of them, and that's why they come and want to do this.
How much do you think silos are a factor in marketing? Because as you know, for a marketing campaign, a bunch of people have to also cooperate. I remember I heard about this years ago that a major this is back when there were multiple telephone companies, and one of them ran a great big campaign and for a free line service or something, and it was hugely successful, except that they didn't tell the call center, and they were flooded with calls, and people were getting busy signals at a phone company. So
Right.
aren't silos often a factor in the success of a marketing program that different, maybe logistics fell short, maybe the salespeople fell short? How do you account for
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Silos. We look at it in two different ways. One is in the implementation. You got to think about enabling it all to work, and if when you leave things out and leave parts of it out or forget to do something that really diminishes what you do, just as the example you just gave. So that's one. We work in silos. We're not bringing in all of the enablement tools that we could or should to make it all work. Second, the silos in terms of you've got different marketing campaigns going on and different marketing uh, uh, processes, and so when when the end result is you're still trying to increase the sales, but to be credible, you got to sort out the effects of the sales increase that goes just to your campaign. So if you've got multiple campaigns going, you got to really see how much of it's driven by each campaign. And here again, we work in silos. We like to think that what we're doing is claiming all of it. We're going to try to claim all of it. That gets them in trouble. Now, what we've interesting looking at this field, there's a positive thing we saw is that I think it's by the nature of what they do, we saw more efforts to do this in the marketing than we do in other functions. But at the same time, the part that they don't do so well is what we call isolate the effects of the marketing campaign. They want to take credit for things they didn't do, and there's no trust but about that. We've seen some CEOs tell us that the marketing has lost their credibility with me. I take whatever they tell me and I usually cut it in half and try to deal with it from that respect. That's when you got a problem because you're so optimistic you're trying to claim a lot more than you should. Um, I have to tell you an interesting story. Uh, we had a we spoke at a conference in Brazil, a marketing success conference, and the people who are coming to talk about marketing campaigns they've run and that showing a successful campaign. They had me do an opening keynote of you about our methodology and wanting me to underscore and emphasize uh, that you've got to sort out the effects of your marketing campaign right down to just your campaign and do that credibly to have any respect that an executive can appreciate. So I did that and I pointed out some different ways to do that. And so you've got to have that. And so you can imagine they asked me to stay through the rest of the conference and give an evaluation. And so I'm watching these speakers come up and they would give a marketing campaign, but assume that the campaign went in and our sales next quarter went up to this number and look what we've done. And of course, the first question was there anything else out there? And they, oh yeah, there's always something else out there. So what was your method of sorting out the effects of what you do? And it went from, well, we don't do that, which is embarrassing, or you wouldn't believe it because we're using analytics and it's probably over your head. You want to understand that. Or they said, we've got a particular, it's a, it's a, it's a proprietary model here that gets that for us as we sorted it out. And so they didn't have answers, and they hated me for making that comment because it made all of them address an issue that they preferred not to, sorting out the effects of what they did.
And you
But
know what? You would have gotten the same reaction in the United States, by the way, in all fairness to our friends in Brazil. No one in marketing really likes to be measured. I have just seen that. Or oh, what I do can't be measured. Or, I just hear that all the time. And look, in fairness, human beings are very complicated. What made me decide to buy something at a given moment?
yeah,
Right? Was it that Facebook ad? Oh, but wait a minute. But my perception of that company actually it wasn't the Facebook ad. I read an article about them in People magazine, and they sound like a wonderful company. Then I saw the Facebook ad right when I wanted to buy a barbecue
yeah.
grill. So, I think what's really important in marketing is also to be realistic, right? And I love what you're saying. Be credible. So stick to what you can prove.
Yes, exactly. So that very point is something that pops up often. We've done some um, uh, ROI studies on Google Ads, for example. Uh, so we assume if you click on the ad and then you go buy the product, that all of that sale goes to that
Google.
ad, and we say not so. You've got to sort out effects. It could be that we're going to buy anyway, and you just reminded me to do it now. I probably would have bought it anyway. So you got to know what percent of your decision to purchase goes to that ad. And it's not that difficult to get. You just have a sample of people you go to and give them just a maybe the cost of the product and says, we're going to give you this much if you just give us a little bit of information, small sample, and say, now tell us the the extent to which this ad caused you to make this purchase on a scale of 0 to 100%. And then to be even more credible, we follow that with what we call an error adjustment. We said, now tell us what your confidence is in the number you've just given us. So we're actually taking your own error out to make it credible. That's when you get some respect at executives. And they don't want to do that, but they have to be credible. So we've trained a lot of the top level executives to ask for these questions, pin them down, force them into that. Otherwise, they'll say, "We ran the ad and we got these people coming." I just we probably all have seen something happen with Cracker Barrel in the news lately.
Yeah.
They had a campaign of trying to reform, change the business, and refurbish it, and
Or modernize it
yeah,
as in their
modernize it.
words.
And the customers had a huge backlash. So this week I got a flyer in the mail with a 10% off of my next meal there, the complete meal, whatever it is. And so they're trying to get people to go. Now, I don't go regularly to Cracker Barrel, but sometimes when Patty and I want
Yeah.
some comfort food, we might go there for a breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were thinking when we saw the beating they were taking with this flawed campaign, we said we ought to go out and support them. So we said the next chance we have that opportunity, let's do that. So when this coupon came, I'm thinking, well, we might just go do that. But see, my decision's really already made to go support them. And you can't, if I go use that coupon, you can't say all of that goes to the coupon. Now, they just don't like to do that, but it's not that difficult. You can get people to sort it out.
Well, and that's one of the services that your company offers, by the way. In other words, it's not just advice. It's my understanding that literally we'll go in, or you will go in and your company and help them do the surveys that might be necessary.
Right.
This is a good segue to kind of what I think, and then you're going to get the last words on the big lessons you've learned. But the other thing that I see that thwarts marketing so much is that we don't know how to stop selling, that
Yeah.
fundamentally, looking at your chart at the wall, if you don't know how to stop selling, that chart isn't going to work. And I think that I want your opinion, be honest. that the real problem is marketers don't have the proper training today. They
Yeah.
do not. They are not taught how to build relationships. They're taught how to sell, sell, sell. They're pushed. I read these LinkedIn things. I saw one company that raised $60 million, and the vice president of marketing bragged about his go-to-market strategy. I thought to myself, I would never want to be the recipient of that. Oh my God. You do that to people? The phone calls, this, that, yeah, yeah. And he never posted that again. I can tell you that. So, what do you think, Jack, that really fundamentally the two skills that we lack in marketing today, and I've been in marketing and sales since 30 years plus, is A, lacking a strategic and systematic approach based on clear purpose, goals, and objectives, your five criteria, and managing systematically and disciplined approach. I think I'll ask you for how many companies you think are along that path. And then the second one is stop selling, build relationships. Why
Yeah.
did you help out? Think about this. You proved it. Why
Yeah.
did you go to Cracker Barrel? Not because of the relationship they had built with you, the memories you had with Patty, stopping on the highway, having that wonderful comfort food. Um, and I think in most cases, we're forgetting that it's really relationships that sell and that the rest is a nudge. There are two elements, right? There's the building that relationship, which takes time, and you can only do it by helping. You can't sell people into a relationship. And then you
Right.
do it, and then you know how to nudge. What are your thoughts on that? Am I wrong?
Uh, no, I think you're correct. You got to build that relationship. Even if you're a large company, you've got a relationship with the customer anyway, and you've got to get that trust and that confidence in them. You want the people to come to you because they've been referred. Uh, we talk about net promoter score. That's just really a reaction, but if they actually do promote you, now you're getting closer. But if they actually sell, that's even better. So we just in our organization last week we had the largest business development week we've had, and that this uh, we've got a lot of business just in one week um, committed to us in some way or another, and we're a small company, but that was close to $500,000 in one week. Now,
Congratulations.
now, but it all came. We looked at what how did we get this? It all came from relationships. It all came with satisfied customers coming back, satisfied customers recommend. All of it came from that. Not one of it came from an email campaign we had or some sponsorship we might have had or some ad that we had. It came from those relationships that you're talking about. And providing good service and delivering something that makes them want to tell others and come back to you again. So I think you're dead on both of those. You need a systematic process, and you got to build some relationships here.
And you don't build relationships. It's funny, I'm on the email list of all these major brands. I'll be nice to them and not name them. They're all name brands. Every one of them spams. Spam, spam, spam. And you can't
Yeah.
even delete them. They'll go around. And these are brands on publicly held companies. And then the other thing that amazes me, how do you build a relationship when you call somebody with customer service and you're all of a sudden pushed off to, and I'm very international. I believe in doing business worldwide. Filipinos are worth the same as Americans. But wait a minute. I need to be able to understand the person, right? So aren't don't here it is, they're spending all this money on an advertising campaign, and I'll name Verizon for one of them, and they have a terrific new president, Dan Schulman. He gets this, he'll know it. Make all these promises, and then every experience is awful. Even their technology is awful. So so this leads to my segue to you. If you were sitting down with a bunch of college students after a class and they said, Jack, what have you really learned about marketing? What are the big lessons you've learned that I should carry with me in my marketing career? What would some of those big lessons be?
Okay. Well, first, uh, you've got to uh, you got to measure your success. Otherwise, you won't know what's happening, and you got to get down to the cause and effect relationship. That what caused the sales. So that's isolating and affecting my campaign. So you got to make sure you know what's working and what's not working. and you got to fix what's not working. You can't say that a particular media it doesn't work until you try it and see. But you've got to have good data to get there. Uh, so just getting in, we call it ROI thinking. Get in the habit of every time you think about a campaign, think about how is my customers going to react? What are they going to take away? What are they going to do? What will be the impact? What is it? That's the purpose of it. And do I think it's going to deliver more value than it's going to cost us, more value and profits? And so just thinking that on every ad, even if you're buying mugs to give away, let's think through that process of how that affects our image, brand, and ultimately maybe some sales somewhere down the road. Thinking through that, getting that ROI thinking hat on every time and everything you do. That's some people even refer to our process when they come to our search sessions. It says, I love the thinking that goes in here. And so this is helping us if we think this way all the time, every time, makes a big difference.
And then right behind you there, and it is kind of funny. It looks like a sideways crucifix, no joke, but I mean, it is a fundamental truth. That system is a universal. And doesn't it really apply to all people management? We had you on another, you and Patty on a show recently that was, it's just a couple of months old, and we're getting quite a lot of people watching it and more even reading it. And you guys rated the level of measurement and management and people management, employee management. I think you put it on a scale of about 3 out of 10, if I recall, 3 or 4 out of 10, in terms of organizations being systematic, really looking at the impact, and learning from what they've, learned to continually improve. How would you scale marketing on that
Hmm.
1 to 10 scale?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna guess about four. They're ahead of some other functions in the organization, but um, they are still got lots to do. A lot of possibilities here that's are missed. Again, getting this kind of thinking in place. I mean, this is the reason we wrote this book. We just didn't see something out there that was doing that. And this book would be happy to maybe get some in the hands of
Okay,
some
you
of your
made a
producers.
generous offer. How about this, folks? The people that get to the end of this show, right? Um, Email Bolger at theeea.org. Bolger at theeea.org. And Jack has generously said that for the first 10 people, did you say, Jack?
I'm willing to go 25 here. How about that?
Wow. First 25 people who email me at Bolger at the EEA will receive a book for Jack. And by the way, there'll be an ROI on that. I guarantee it. Jack, really, I'm a huge
Yeah,
supporter of your work. It's so fundamental because people have so much impact. We say they're our number one asset, and they're not even on, they're only on the balance sheet as an expense, right? So
yeah.
I think we have a ways to go. So Jack, once again, thanks again. Best return for Patty to come home, and we'll see you again in the show soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.